Chapter 27 of Kidnap on the California Comet by M.G. Leonard and Sam Sedgman. Telling time. Come with me, Uncle Nat said. I suspected you might feel blue after Reno, so I've arranged a surprise. What does he mean by feel blue? It means feel a bit down, doesn't it? A bit fed up, disappointed. And why might Hal be feeling that way after Reno? What happened at Reno? That's where Hadley and Mason got off the train, isn't it? That's when Hal had to say goodbye to his two new friends. Hal followed his uncle, but his head was buzzing. He stumbled as they snaked through the train to the sightseer lounge. The morning sun flashed from the windows of cars and shops as the train trundled through the suburbs of Reno. Here we are. Uncle Nat stopped beside a booth occupied by Seymour Hart, his briefcase on the table. Sliding into the seat opposite, Uncle Nat indicated Hal should sit down beside him. Is it time? Seymour smiled, and Uncle Nat nodded. Time for what? Asked Hal. I've bought you a present. Uncle Nat sounded excited. Seymour opened his briefcase, took out a black box, and slid it across the table. Use your prior knowledge of the story. What do you think is going to be inside the black box? Hal looked at his uncle. A present? Go on, open it, Uncle Nat said eagerly. Happy birthday. Lifting the lid, Hal saw a navy-faced watch with silver hands and rim. He lifted it out by its chunky rubber strap. My finest junior explorer watch, Seymour said proudly. 3 hands for telling the time, the old-fashioned way, and if you press that button on the side, Hal did, and the face lit up turquoise, displaying the time digitally. It has a compass, calendar, stopwatch, and it's waterproof down to 100 feet. It can be worn in the bath, shower, or while you're swimming in the sea. Sorry. Put it on, Uncle Nat suggested. Hal unbuckled the strap, slipped the watch on and fastened it, feeling the weight of it on his wrist. Every traveller needs a watch, said Uncle Nat, looking at him nervously. Do you like it? I love it, Hal whispered. It's brilliant. He threw his arms around his uncle, hugging him tight, surprised to find he was blinking back tears. Oh, I am glad. Uncle Nat beamed. Hal sat back, admiring his watch. I knew we'd picked a winner, said Seymour, winking at Uncle Nat. He closed his briefcase, locked it, and patted it. That case is Seymour's most precious possession, Hal thought, but he still fell for our switcheroo. The clues from the kidnap spun about his head. Marianne's yellow dress, pots of pens strewn across the bedroom, the ransom note, the sweet wrapper, the purple hoodie. The answer was in there somewhere. Why couldn't he see it? Seymour got to his feet. Well, if we've completed our business, I'm going to get myself a celebratory cup of coffee. His eyes twinkled. It's been a pleasure spending time with you. Have a good day now. I know that look, Uncle Nat studied Hal. What's going on in that head of yours? Hal took out his sketchbook, waiting until the watch salesman was out of earshot. Hadley said something on the platform in Reno that's made my head jangle. Go on. She said that if the kidnapping were her trick, Marianne would have been grabbed, while Mason, dressed as Marianne, would scream and be thrown in the boot of the car. Hal blinked. Do you remember when we all went chasing after that car? No one was looking in the other direction. Uncle Nat's eyes grew wide. And look, Hal flicked to the sketch he'd done of Marianne in the Durham Museum and then turned to the sketch of her being kidnapped. Do you see? Uncle Nat's eyes flicked from one sketch to the other. See? See what? The shoes, Hal pointed. At the museum, Marianne had on strappy sandals, but here she's wearing trainers. I didn't see it before, but it's been staring me in the face all this time. Dear Lord! Uncle Nat pulled the sketchbook closer, studying the 2 pictures. You're right. I don't know who was thrown into the boot of that car, Hal said, but it wasn't Marianne. Uncle Nat and Hal stared at each other. What if one kidnapper grabbed Marianne when she came out of the Silver Scout, dragged her round the back of the carriage and covered her mouth, while a fake kidnapping was staged in the car park, Hal said. After the police finished their search, the kidnappers could bring Marianne back onto the train, hide in a roomette or compartment, and make a clean getaway. That's when Marianne could have dropped the sweet wrapper in the struggle when they brought her back on board. It could be, Uncle Nat hesitated, but what about the teeth? And how could the kidnappers have known Marianne would be wearing a yellow dress? He shook his head. And it doesn't explain how Hadley's purple hoodie turned up in coach. I'm missing something. Hal flipped through the pages of his sketchbook, but I'm getting close. I can feel it. If you're right, then there'd be a number of people involved with the kidnapping, and at least one in August Razor's household. It might be a gang. A gang? Hal's neck prickled. I think that body sensation tells us that he's feeling uncomfortable, doesn't it? We should tell the police, Uncle Nat said. But they said my pictures weren't evidence, Hal protested. We have nothing but theories. We need proof. He glanced down at his picture of Adelbert Cabbage. Did she have something to do with it? He looked at his uncle. We should talk to Vanessa Rodriguez. Why? Zola says she's a police officer. Hal stood up. We can tell her what we've uncovered. I see, Uncle Nat nodded. I'll come with you. Wait, first, can you check to see if Adelbert Cabbage is still sat in coach? She should be halfway back on the right. I saw her this morning at breakfast, but she could have got off at Reno. Uncle Nat nodded. I'll meet you at Vanessa Rodriguez's roomette. Hal hurried through the train, feeling as though the truth were pawing at the door of his brain. His chest tightened as he approached the Moretti's empty compartment. Beyond it was Ryan's bedroom, and he felt a flush of guilt about getting him in trouble with his father. Before he could change his mind, he stepped up to the door and knocked. There was no answer. Francine appeared in the doorway of the Moretti's room with an armful of sheets. Looking for the Jacksons? She asked. They left in the middle of the night, got off at Salt Lake City. But Mr. Jackson said they were going to San Francisco. Hal felt the hairs on his arms rise. What does that body sensation mean, do you think? The gentleman had to change his plans. He said his mama was sick. It came on awful sudden. Francine looked at Hal. Did his boy have something of yours? Yes, Hal lied. I lent Ryan a book, a Tintin book. It's my favourite. He might have left it behind, knowing you'd want it back. Francine pulled an elastic string from her belt with a loop of keys on it. Let's see now. There you are. She unlocked the door and pushed it open. Take a look. The room will be empty to Emeryville now. Thank you, Francine. Hal's heart was beating fast. I hope you get your book back, she said, shuffling off with the bed linen. Standing in the compartment, Hal could smell Jean's aftershave. He opened every cupboard and drawer, feeling along every shelf, but found nothing. The shower room was empty too. His eyes fell on the bin and the white plastic bag inside. Someone had tied it shut, a thoughtful gesture for whoever came to empty it. But Jean Jackson didn't strike Hal as the kind of man who was thoughtful. His nimble fingers pulled the knot apart and he crouched down, emptying the contents onto the floor. As he stared at the rubbish, a sequence of pictures formed in his head, flipping seamlessly from one to the next. Hal saw the whole case come together in his mind's eye, and he knew immediately who'd kidnapped Marianne and exactly how they'd done it. Wow, what on earth has Hal just found in that bin that has helped him solve the case? Oh my goodness me, it's a real cliffhanger. That's all for now, folks.